Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Shweta and I welcome you to Teaching Learning with Shweta. Today's topic is ethics in research methodology. So, as a researcher, it is very important for us to know what ethics we should follow while conducting any kind of research. Ethics, we need to understand the meaning of ethics and how ethics are different from other things like laws or values or moral values and such concepts, because I've seen the research scholars, students getting confused in these things. Ethics are not enforceable, okay? They are not enforceable like the law. If you are not meeting ethics, then that doesn't mean that you would be sued or you would be fined for that or you'd be behind the bars. Just in case if you break a law, then there is a punishment for it. But for ethics, there is no such punishment that if you don't follow these ethics, then it's not a punishable offense, but it is not considered good. People will not look at your research with respect. People will not value your research, and your research will be considered as something that does not do good to the society or may potentially harm the society. It does not get you a good name. So, ethics are something that we have to follow to show the world that our research is for the benefit of the society and has been conducted in a manner that it brings no harm to anyone in the society. Because often research topics involve researching uh, on sensitive issues. So there we have to take care of a lot of things, and that is what is expected from a researcher. It is expected from a researcher to follow those guidelines so that the privacy, the confidentiality, all these things are maintained and these are not violated, and no harm happens to any member of the society or particularly the respondents that are involved in the research of the researcher. So ethics are different from laws. They are also different from values. Now, being a good person, not hitting anyone, being nice, being kind, being helpful, these are all good values. These are not what we are talking about. These are human moral values that we have to follow. But ethics is related to work, it is related to research. When we talk about ethics in research, it is related to research methodology. So the way you should conduct your research, that it should not violate, it should not bring harm to any member of the society, it should actually benefit the society. So there is a difference between values, ethics, and law. So ethics kind of come in between values and law. Law is strictly enforceable, because if we do not follow the law, we will be subjected to punishment. In case of ethics, you will not be subjected to punishment unless there is a clear case of plagiarism or there's a punishment for that. But ethics is something that comes in between values and the law. So values are entirely subjective. Nobody will force you to be kind or to speak softly with others. That's something that is your choice. And values, our parents teach us that, our ancestors have given us so many traditions and values to follow. So that's a different thing. That's not enforceable. That's also a matter of choice. But ethics is not completely a matter of choice, and is also something not that we have to follow. I mean, something that can be punished if they are not followed. Something that can lead to a kind of a punishment. So ethics come in between these two. So this difference has to be clear, because a lot of students come up with such questions to me. Now let's get started with what we mean by ethics. So there are ample number of definitions for this topic. I've just taken up two definitions. Research ethics are norms for conduct that distinguish between acceptable and unacceptable behavior in scientific research. So whenever we are conducting a research, what is acceptable and what is not acceptable for the researcher, these things, they are defined in ethics. Council of International Organizations of Medical Sciences, they say that research ethics seek to protect the dignity, safety, and well-being of research participants while ensuring the integrity of the research. So whenever we are conducting research on any topic and there are humans involved in that research as respondents, we require to conduct research on them, we require to give them a questionnaire or an interview or observe them. We have to make sure that their dignity, their safety and well-being is always ensured. They are never threatened. So when we take care of these things, so the guidelines that help a researcher conduct a research in a way that all the participants in the research process are safe and their well-being is taken care of, then those guidelines are called research ethics. They have to be, so research ethics, they are taught to all researchers. And ethics are not only for the researchers. I think in every profession we have a code of conduct, and ethics as a compulsory set of guidelines to be given to all employees, all teachers, all wherever you are working. Ethics are always there, and then there are laws, and then there are rules, and then there are ordinances, and different kinds of things with different levels of enforcement. How do ethical issues, and why do ethical issues arise in research? Because the researcher will always try to find out, a good researcher always wants to find out the reality. A researcher is always in a pursuit of truth. क्या हो रहा है सच में, क्या क्या सच था, that is unbiased, totally exactly what is happening. The researcher tries to gather that. In that process, sometimes the researcher has to offend a lot of people, because if something bad is happening in a certain area and you are as a researcher trying to know about it, people will try to hide that, and you may also get very desperate to know the truth, and you may also get involved in harming them, forcing them to answer, or to reveal the truth. So these issues become very sensitive, especially when the topic is about religious preferences. The topic is about sexual orientation. For example, it is about, just an example, it is about transgenders, or you're trying to study the life of sex workers, or you're trying to study their problems, or the problems of any gender, courage, intelligence. When these topics are very sensitive, and you being a researcher, you want to find out the truth, then in that process, often these sensitive topics, they pose threats to you as well as threats to these people whom you are researching on. Sometimes research involves research on children. For example, if you're studying about for example, there's a research about child safety, on child safety, or on sexual offenses made against children. Now, this is a very sensitive topic. So when you will be studying about that, you will actually have to involve yourself with those children and their parents, and then a lot of parents will not like to participate. A lot of children will not like to talk about what they have gone through, and you may end up forcing them to speak up, because you are trying to collect the actual reality, the truth. You don't want to distort the truth. You want to actually present facts as they are. So in this process, a lot of issues arise, and there is where the ethical guidelines help us. You have to stop, you have to limit yourself till there is no harm. If a child is unable to manage his or her emotions while giving an interview, you should stop there. You cannot just force a child to answer questions, answer sensitive questions, because they are very crucial for your research. It does not work like that. So you have to take care. Their safety, their psychological, physical, mental, social well-being is always paramount, not more important than your research quality, of course. And then also you cannot compromise with the quality of research. That's also a challenge. So that is when these problems arise, that you have to maintain the validity of the research, and at the same time you cannot hurt the sentiments of people, the respondents who are actually a part of your research. Then often there's a lot of interference. If you're trying to research on some topic which is very sensitive, then the government or the authorities involved may not want you to do the research in the way that it actually reveals the truth. If, for example, if there's something related to corruption or inefficiency of some government officials, then obviously they will interfere. Then there will always be privacy concerns. For example, you are trying to research on a particular community, a particular group. Maybe they are not willing to talk about their lives because they want to live a private life. So there can also be medical, social and physical risks. If you are doing a medical research, and if it involves testing of a medicine, then obviously you will have to administer that medicine on a group of people, and that can be risky for the respondents. Then there may be access issues that you write a mail to the authority that I want to research on your school students, and on reading the topic of your research, the school principal simply denies you the permission to enter the premises. Then often the respondents are very hostile. They don't want to speak up about their problems. So in those cases, these ethical issues arise. How to go about this? How, if somebody is not willing to answer, how would we make them answer? By forcing them, by cheating them, by deceiving them, by secretly observing them? No, these are not the ways in which we should proceed with those sensitive topics in which we are trying to research. There are ways that we can do. No matter what, we cannot deceive our respondents. So these are the things that we'll be talking about when we'll discuss ethics in research. Always remember the cost benefit ratio. It should be less. That the benefits that the research study is supposed to provide to the society should be more than the costs. Every research comes with costs. A research is always not a very easy thing to do. It's just not the methodology that, the statistics part or the methodology part or getting permission part, which is difficult. Often the data collection part is very difficult because it makes the respondents uncomfortable, especially if the topic is a little sensitive. They would be stressed. You would also be stressed. You may also be stressed as a researcher. It brings financial strain to the researcher at times when researcher is supposed to travel a lot or arrange for the experimental setups. It also brings a time burden because we as researchers are bounded by time limits. If we are researching on behalf of our institution or as a research scholar, then we are always time bound. We can also there's always a legal risk involved. A respondent may always go to the police and complain that this person is recording us, this person is observing me or our group. So there are lots of costs that a price that a researcher has to pay. And then there are always benefits. When we define the objectives of our research, when we write the rationale or the need of the study, we often try to justify why this research is being conducted and what good it will bring to the society or what addition it will do to the knowledge base already existing. So the benefits of a research, such as, coming up with a better intervention to a problem or benefit to the society or revelation of some very important truth or improved knowledge, all these are benefits and they should be always higher than the costs. So no harm, no discomfort, no stress, no loss of privacy, all these should be low and the benefits to the society should be high. So that's the cost benefit ratio that we have to deal with as a researcher. What are the key considerations or what points we will be discussing while talking about ethics in research? We'll go one by one. Informed consent. So whenever you are going to conduct a research on a group of people, always remember these 4 points. The subject, the respondent, who is going to give you information, has the right to decide whether he or she want to participate in the research or not. You cannot force them to speak or to give an interview or to write a questionnaire. They have to be voluntarily, they have to voluntarily do that. They have to be ready for that. And they should be able to provide you full information. It's not that they just give you half-baked information. That's also, you have to identify those respondents that are competent enough to understand the questions of your research. If your research is on an intellectual topic and you are giving a questionnaire, you're giving questionnaires to a group of people who are completely illiterate or unaware of that problem or situation, it's of no use. They will be giving you all absurd and vague information, no use to your research. They should be able to comprehend the meaning of the questions asked or the process of the research. The aims and objectives of the research have to be clearly told to them. They have the right to freedom and self-determination and decide whether they want to be a part of your research as participants or not. So they should also be knowing the research process, what your research is trying to find, or the answer, the research questions, the objectives, the aims of your research. They have the right to this information. The consent, they should be ready. Access or acceptance. Now, access is not free. Do not assume that there's a piece of land near my society and I have the right to go and sit there and record everything and make a research study out of it. No, you have to take permission from the authority. If it is a school, it has to be from the principal or from the local administration if it's a government school. And the purpose of the purpose, nature, aim, societal benefits, everything should be properly explained and informed to the authority before you begin with your actual research. You usually have to give a research proposal to them also. Then you have to negotiate. These are the steps. Once you get access, once you get permission, then you also have to mention what all infrastructure, how many respondents you would need, what all facilities you would require, time, space, how much time your research would take, and then how it will also contribute to the institution. For example, if you go to a school or a corporate and you're researching on these topics, you have to clearly tell them that why they should contribute to your research, why they should help you with your research, because this research is going to bring out solutions to some problems, or it is going to reveal truths that will actually benefit the employees or the teachers or the students. So you have to actually give an idea about how this research is going to benefit them in your research proposal when you submit this to them. And always remember, it is also a part of ethics to share your feedback and results of your research once you're done with it. This is something that a lot of researchers don't do. Once they are done with the data collection, they just simply disappear. So as it's ethical for you to come back to the institution once you are, because come back to the institution you have researched on and provide them the details of what results your research has come up with. It's actually seen that researchers skip this step. You have got permission from a school, you went there, you researched, or you collected data from the school, and then you completely forgot about the school. That's not a nice thing to do. That's completely unethical. They have the right to know not just what you did in your research process, but also what your research came up with in the end. Then very important, non-maleficence, beneficence and human dignity. There's a Hippocratic oath that first of all, do no harm. So whatever is the purpose of your research, no matter which institution is sponsoring your research, how important it is to the society and how nicely it is being done and how valid it is and how much money you have got from the sponsors, regardless, the most important thing remains, you will not bring harm to anyone. No harm, physical, psychological, social, cultural, would be done to any group of that is being involved in your research, especially with children, victims of abuse. If you are trying to research on abuse, child abuse or sexual abuse, you have to remember that the dignity of the individual must not be violated. There should be no embarrassment. You should not subject children or any respondent to any kind of anxiety or embarrassment while interviewing them. So these are all connected with the concept of non-maleficence, no harm. First of all, do no harm. This is a Hippocratic oath. Sometimes people write this on their dissertations also as a quote. Anonymity. You must never reveal the identities of respondents that are taking part in your research. Very important. When you give them a questionnaire, it's not even required to write name and put a dash. You should not be doing that unless it is something that they voluntarily may write, but it's advisable not to force or not to even request the respondents to mention their details. And it should not demand forcibly any kind of contact or email or address. You should not be able to trace once your research is done that who were the people who gave you this information, because information at times are very sensitive also. So every information, the identity of everyone should be kept anonymous. And all the information that the person is giving should also be kept in confidential. Okay, it should be used only for research. It's not that you're sitting in a park and talking to your friend and revealing everything, that I went for a research study to the school, and the principal and the respondents, they were saying this. You are not, it's something very, very bad. You shouldn't be doing this. The All that information you have collected, it should only be used for research purpose. And how do you uh, ensure that? You ensure that by error inculcation. You deliberately shuffle the names of the respondents. You deliberately write wrong names so that you are not biased. And you delete the identifiers. You just if there are groups of people that you can identify while doing your research, that yes, this response was said by this, you just shuffle it up, you just mix it up. So you delete the names of people who could be identified, and always the reports are made in crude form, never in a very detailed form. So these are the ways that you can actually maintain confidentiality. No deception or betrayal. For example, you go to a research site and you come across a group of people, and some of them agree to answer your questions or give you interviews or answer your questionnaires, and then you tell them that this research is for this purpose, and that is actually not the purpose of your research. So you're basically deceiving them, you're betraying their trust. So you should tell people what actually is being researched and what are the real objectives of the research. You should never hide the results of research or give them any kind of misinformation. Betrayal or and betrayal is also when the data is displayed without their consent or their identities are revealed. So no kind of deception or betrayal. There should be absolute transparency. Now, there are a lot of dilemmas that, as I was talking about in the very beginning, that the researcher always tries to find the truth. And this is also, if there's a Hippocratic oath that there should be no harm to anyone, then there's also another oath that everything will be done correctly and nothing will be biased, and all that actually exists will be uncovered and presented through the research. So that becomes a dilemma whether to, because sometimes revealing truth means also revealing the identities or giving a lot of information about that community to the world, which itself unintentionally goes against the ethical guidelines. So there are a lot of dilemmas that a researcher has to go through, which is what makes the research difficult. So it's not easy to research. It's not a joke. It's not a cakewalk. It actually involves a lot of dilemmas. You have to maintain truth. You have to maintain validity of a research, and at the same time, you cannot harm anyone. And harm sometimes is subjective. Even if you are talking about problems of the people you are researching on, these people may not like it. So again, they may comprehend it as a harm, and if they comprehend it as harm, you have to stop your research. So it becomes very difficult at times to manage both the things. So quality of research is also something that you have to maintain, and you also have to maintain that no one gets harmed. You have to, sometimes you come to a situation where you have to make a compromise, that I have to delete this question, I cannot ask this question, although asking this question will really shoot up the validity of my research, but I cannot ask this question because this is making my respondents anxious or embarrassed. So sometimes you have to hide the truth. You unintentionally have to uh, compromise with quality of research by deleting those sensitive questions, and then you also have to sometimes the researcher, it becomes risky for the researcher if the government gets to know that, if the people get to know that you are researching on something that they would not like to be researched on, then it may be a risk to your life. So these are the dilemmas that researchers have to go through. What are the things that you should take care in a research? Again, led by ethics. Principle of benefit maximization, that whatever you do, whatever your research is aiming to do, whatever the objectives and research objectives of the research are, and the research questions that your research is trying to answer, there should be maximum benefit to the society. Principle of equal respect, treating everyone as free, rational, and equal. That is the respondents. Taking care of privacy, taking care of autonomy and academic freedom, and humanness, of course, and also maintaining accepted standards and making reasonable unbiased judgments. For example, if you've gone to a place and you're observing something, then you have to write as it is. You cannot write your own judgments. The place was not good, the place was bad, people were bad to me, people were rude to me. People may be rude to you, but you have to look into the answers to the questions that you have put in the research. You have to look at your research, not your own thing. Then accountability of the researcher institution is obviously very important. Some names of organizations that talk about ethics or they lay out ethical standards are Indian Council of Medical Research. UGC also gives out a lot of ethical standards to the educational institutions in our country. These are Indian ethical, these are about ethics for the Indian institutions, whether it's medical or educational. Department of Health Research, Institutional Ethics Committee. Then there's American Psychological Association that we follow a lot, and I've made a video on citation and citation and referencing. It's there on my channel, and there also I have explained how we follow the American Psychological Association while writing papers or while writing dissertations. You can go through that. So these are the names of few organizations, Indian as well as international. There are more. You can actually research about them. So this is about this was about ethics in education, in research, and for more personalized lectures you can contact me on this email, or you can drop in your comments in the comment section. If there are more questions or suggestions and feedback, then also you can contact me. You can either DM me on Instagram, or you can simply mail me on this email ID, because I also provide personalized or one-to-one interaction and guidance on research, as well as for competitive exams like UGC and NET, JRF, etc. So that's all for today. Thank you and have a nice day.